The moment I found the earring, my heart stopped. It wasn't mine. Silver, twisted into a delicate spiral, it lay there mocking me from the corner of our bedroom floor. I knelt, trembling, and picked it up. My mind scrambled for explanations. Maybe it belonged to a friend, maybe it fell from my mother-in-law's ear during her last visit. But deep down, I knew. Jake, I whispered aloud, my voice cracking in the stillness. My husband of 12 years, the man who swore he'd never hurt me. The man who'd been working late more often than usual. The man who suddenly took up running but never seemed to lose a single pound. My hand shook as I placed the earring on his nightstand and sat on the edge of the bed. The familiar scent of his cologne clung to the sheets. A wave of nausea washed over me as I imagined someone else wrapped in these linens, sharing moments that were supposed to belong to us alone. The sound of the garage door jolted me. My heart raced. I swiped at my eyes and stood just as Jake walked in, whistling. "Hey, babe," he greeted me, smiling. "You're up late." "Yeah," I forced a smile. "Couldn't sleep." His gaze shifted past me to the nightstand. The smile faltered. "What's this?" I asked, stepping aside so he could see the earring clearly. Jake froze. The color drained from his face. I don't know. Where did you find that?" "On the floor," I said. "Our bedroom floor." He ran a hand through his hair and forced a laugh. "Maybe it's yours, or maybe it got stuck in my gym bag. You know how those lockers are." "Yeah," I said softly, watching his eyes dart around the room, searching for an escape. "I guess that's possible." But we both knew it wasn't. That night, as he slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling. My mind raced with suspicions, memories, and anger. I wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. The next day, I called a private investigator. I made an appointment. I need to know who she is. The waiting was unbearable. Days passed in agonizing slowness. Every moment that Jake looked at his phone or smiled absently made my stomach churn. I analyzed his movements, the extra long showers, the sudden interest in cologne, the way he flinched when his phone buzzed. I kept myself busy while waiting for the detective's call. I went through old photos of us, searching for signs I might have missed. I went to the gym he'd recently joined, casually asking the receptionist if she'd seen him with anyone. I even followed his car one night, heart pounding with each turn. The tension consumed me. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that earring, shimmering like a sinister token of betrayal. "Jake," I whispered one night as he slept beside me. "You have no idea what's coming." And neither did I. The air was crisp the morning I met with the detective. I sat in my car for a moment before going in, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I took a deep breath and stepped out, my heels clicking against the cold pavement as I crossed to the entrance. Detective Laura Steele's office was tucked away in a nondescript building on the edge of downtown. A small plaque on the door read, "Steele Investigations." I knocked twice, and the door opened immediately. "Mrs. Thompson," she asked, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, her eyes sharp. "I'm Laura. Please, come in." The office was minimalist, with a single desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of filing cabinets. A faint aroma of coffee lingered in the air. I sat, clutching my purse like a lifeline. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, voice trembling. "Of course," Laura replied, pulling out a notebook. "Why don't you start by telling me why you're here?" I hesitated, then opened my purse and retrieved the earring. I placed it on the desk between us. "I found this," I said. "In my bedroom. It's not mine." Laura examined the earring, her face impassive. "And you suspect your husband?" "Yes," I whispered. "His name is Jake Thompson. We've been married 12 years. Lately, things have felt off. He works late. He takes phone calls in the garage. And then there's this." Laura nodded and jotted down some notes. Has he given you any explanation for the earring? He said it might have come from his gym locker. But I don't believe him. And you've noticed other changes? He started running, but never loses weight. New cologne. A sudden interest in his appearance, I said, my voice gaining strength with each word. He used to leave his phone lying around. Now it's always locked. Laura tapped her pen against the notebook. Classic signs, she murmured. But some men are more careful than others. From what you're telling me, your husband's cautious. Very, I agreed. I followed him once. He drove around for an hour, no clear destination. A decoy run, Laura said. He's likely trying to throw you off. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd wanted confirmation, but hearing it aloud made it real. Laura leaned forward. I'll start with the basics: surveillance, phone records, GPS tracking if needed. It might take time, especially if he's careful. I understand, I said. I need to know the truth. She gave me a reassuring nod. We'll find it, Mrs. Thompson. No matter how well he hides it. I left the office with my heart pounding and a strange mix of dread and relief. The wheels were in motion. Now, all I could do was wait. The days after my meeting with Detective Steele blurred together in a haze of anxiety and anticipation. Every time Jake smiled at me or kissed my forehead before leaving for work, I felt a hollow ache in my chest. My mind churned endlessly, conjuring images of him in someone else's arms. The earring on the nightstand became an obsession. I caught myself staring at it as if it might whisper its secrets. I oscillated between doubt and certainty. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it really had come from the gym. But then I'd remember the locked phone, the new cologne, the unexplained late nights. My instinct screamed that the truth was far worse than I could imagine. Finally, on the 5th day, my phone buzzed with a message from Laura Steele: meet me tomorrow at 2 p.m. at my office. We need to talk. I barely slept that night. By morning, I was running on adrenaline and caffeine. The office door creaked as I stepped inside. Laura stood, motioning me to sit. Mrs. Thompson, she greeted me, her face somber. We found something. My heart stopped. What is it? She slid a folder across the desk. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside were photos: Jake at a cafe, laughing with a dark-haired woman, Jake outside a hotel, his arm wrapped around her waist, Jake kissing her in the shadow of a parked car. I stared at the images until they blurred through my tears. Who is she? I choked out. Her name is Melissa Carter, Laura said softly. She works at his office. They've been meeting regularly for months. Numbness settled over me. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself, it was the ease with which he'd lied to me for so long. Laura cleared her throat. I took the liberty of contacting a divorce attorney who specializes in cases like yours. If you're ready, she's expecting you this afternoon. I nodded mechanically, took the address, and left. The law office of Evelyn Grant was sleek and modern. A receptionist ushered me into a sunlit room where a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes stood to greet me. Mrs. Thompson, I'm Evelyn. Please sit. I obeyed, clutching Laura's folder like a lifeline. Tell me everything, Evelyn prompted. I opened the folder and laid the photos on her desk. My husband Jake, he's been having an affair, I said, my voice brittle. And I want to know what comes next. Evelyn studied the photos, then looked at me with a mix of compassion and resolve. Infidelity is painful, she said. But it's also powerful in court, especially if you want to protect your assets and your children. I don't care about the money, I said fiercely. I want the truth to come out. I want him to know he can't just walk away from this. Evelyn smiled faintly. Then let's make sure he doesn't. The days following my meeting with Evelyn Grant felt like the calm before a storm. The truth had been exposed, but the battle was only beginning. I moved through the house like a ghost, silently observing Jake as he went about his routine, oblivious to the war I was preparing behind the scenes. Evelyn called me the morning after our meeting. "We'll start gathering more evidence," she said. "The more irrefutable the proof, the stronger our position." "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Stay calm. Stay patient. Act normal," she instructed. "Jake shouldn't suspect anything. Meanwhile, Detective Steele will continue surveillance, and I'll work on freezing assets he might try to hide." I hung up and stood by the window, watching Jake's car disappear down the street. My fingers tapped against the cool glass. "Stay calm," I whispered to myself. That afternoon, Laura Steele sent me an encrypted link to a shared drive with ongoing updates. The first file I opened was a log of text messages between Jake and Melissa. His words, once whispered to me during our honeymoon, were now laid bare in sterile, black and white text. "Can't wait to see you again, babe. Last night was amazing." My stomach turned. I printed the messages and added them to a growing folder labeled evidence. Next came photos, dinners, hotel visits, secret weekend trips. My hand shook as I slid each image into a protective sleeve. Evelyn called again a few days later. "We need one more piece, financial records." "Can you access his computer?" "Yes," I said. "He's careless with passwords." That night, I waited until Jake fell asleep. The glow of his laptop screen illuminated my shaking hands as I navigated his files. Bank statements revealed lavish expenses, jewelry, five-star hotels, flights to destinations I'd never heard him mention. I took screenshots of everything and emailed them to Evelyn. "Sent," I typed, then closed the laptop and lay beside Jake, who snored softly. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how I'd missed the signs for so long. The next step was revenge. "Are you sure about this?" Laura asked when we met at a quiet cafe 2 days later. "I'm sure," I said, gripping my coffee cup. "I want the confrontation to be public." She nodded. "We'll set it up. We'll plant the evidence where he'll see it but won't realize it's deliberate. He thinks he's outsmarted you. Let's use that." The plan was straightforward. A carefully crafted photo album placed where Jake couldn't resist looking. A text scheduled to be sent during his next dinner with Melissa. And a family event where the truth would come crashing down. I went home that night and looked at myself in the mirror. I was no longer the betrayed wife, I was the woman holding the detonator. "Jake," I whispered to the empty room, "you wanted secrets. Let's see how you handle mine." The day of reckoning arrived faster than I expected. Every detail had been meticulously planned. Laura Steele had set up hidden cameras in the restaurant, Evelyn had filed the initial paperwork for the divorce, and I had spent the last few days rehearsing the confrontation in my mind. That evening, Jake left the house, dressed in his crisp blue shirt, the one I'd bought for our anniversary last year. The irony wasn't lost on me. I followed him at a distance, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. He parked in front of La Bella Vita, the same Italian restaurant where he'd proposed to me years ago. My stomach twisted with a mixture of rage and anticipation. I watched as he stepped inside and greeted Melissa with a kiss. I gave Laura the signal. She activated the live feed, and the hidden camera sprang to life. The restaurant staff, prepped beforehand, guided me to a table with a perfect view of my husband and his mistress. I took a deep breath, smoothed my dress, and walked straight to their table. "Jake," I said, voice steady but cold. His face drained of color. "Lena? What are you doing here?" I placed a manila envelope on the table. "Surprise," I said, my lips curling into a mirthless smile. Melissa's eyes darted between us. "Who is she?" she asked, shifting uncomfortably. "I'm his wife," I answered, eyes locked on Jake's. "And this," I tapped the envelope, "is a collection of your greatest hits, hotel receipts, text messages, and those cute little love notes." The color returned to Jake's face, now in splotches of red. "Lena, let's not do this here." Oh, but this is exactly where we should do it, I snapped. I turned to the surrounding diners, whose forks were suspended midair. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Jake Thompson, devoted husband, father, and world-class liar. A few gasps echoed around the room. Jake lunged for the envelope, but I was faster. I opened it and scattered the contents across the white tablecloth. Photos of him and Melissa in hotel lobbies, text transcripts of their late-night exchanges, and printouts of extravagant charges on our joint credit card. Melissa recoiled, eyes wide. You said you were separated. Jake stammered, I can explain. I turned away from him and faced the crowd again,